agenda, then straight into the swim recap, then we do photo taking.
Anyway, this will
What thing?
so we'll go into the agenda, the recap, and then photo taking, right?
Yeah.
So do you want me to say this?
No, no, I'll say,
So you're gonna follow up?
yeah, I'll follow up with the photo taking. Yeah. So photo taking, we want to do two people.
Yeah. Sure.
Oh, what does it look so empty? Who's not here? Huh?
Okay. Where's agenda?
Good morning, distinguished guests, friends, and colleagues. Welcome to the Singapore leg of the Swim in ASEAN demonstration. My name is Elizabeth. I would like to take the opportunity to welcome you to Singapore and the Singapore Aviation Academy. To start off today's program, I would like to invite Mr. David Liao to let us know the agenda and some housekeeping rules. Mr. David, please.
Right. Good morning, everyone. I thank you for coming early. All right, and welcome to Singapore. So, I'm just going to start off with some housekeeping instructions. Internet access, well, it's on the holding slide, but just in case you missed it, we have two Wi-Fi spots available. One is the one that is provided by the Academy, which is the first one, and the alternate is the wireless at SG. So you can use either one to get internet access. Restrooms are located outside the auditorium. They're on the first floor, they're out the main door, and right at the back on the right as you head out. And the next nearest restrooms, if those become full, are actually out in the lobby behind the security desk. On the second floor, the restrooms are out the back door located opposite the entrance to the auditorium. Some emergency procedures. In case of emergencies, the exits are marked with a green sign that says exit. And there are three exits at the back, one where you came in and two at the sides there. And then there's one more back here somewhere. I don't know where. But basically, if something should happen, touch wood, yeah, head out the back doors and out the lobby and out the front of the building. So on the second floor, there are two exits on the back. It's located left and right of the back of the auditorium. Again, once you're out the auditorium, make your way down the staircase and then out the front of the building. And our meeting area is, the assembly area in case of emergencies is in the car park. As you head out the building, turn left, go straight ahead, and you'll find the car park. And we'll all gather there and hopefully nothing happens. Well, again, touch wood, nothing will happen. This is just in case. So the agenda for today, we are going to run like this. You just had your registration. I'm doing the housekeeping agenda. I'm going to swap the photo taking and the swim recap because generally we should do the photo taking just before tea break, yeah. I'll run through the swim recap and then we do the photo taking, then we'll come to our morning tea break. I know it's a recap, but it's split into two halves because there's so much material to cover. Right? So after the morning tea break, I'll come back again with the second half of the recap, and then introduction of the scenarios. That's a quick 5-minute introduction. And we'll dive down to the meat of today's presentation. And we'll start off with scenario the first three scenarios from Singapore. That will take us through to lunch. And because the lunch looks really wonderful, I've put up 2 hours for you to enjoy the lunch, mix around. And if you notice on your way in, I put up a backdrop right at the front. And Howie is around. You can grab him for a photograph with your group or with any one of us. That's available for you to take the photograph. So this 2 hours is for you to mill around and enjoy the facilities in our academy. I especially like the garden. The koi ponds and having the fish swimming around is so peaceful. I kind of need that right now. So, then when we come back in the afternoon, that will take us through the other 4 scenarios. And I think a lot of people are very interested in the last 2, 7 and 8. So please think of questions and feel free to ask the presenters, because they prepared these scenarios. They're the ones who will be best able to answer your questions if you have any. That will take us through to the afternoon tea break. And then I will come back again to talk about what we took away from this demonstration, the lessons that we've learned, the values that the concepts and operational values that we take away from this particular demonstration. And then I will ask Mr. Lee to come up to give us a ICAO's perspective, but I think, Mr. Lee, maybe you want to do that first? So, because Mr. Lee has a flight to catch this evening, perhaps I will let him do ICAO's perspective on swim immediately after the tea break, such that, if he needs to leave, he can leave on time. I'll try and catch up the time such that we can have you stay for longer, right? So we will possibly swap that 2 items. So Mr. Lee will give his perspective of ICAO's perspective on swim before I do my key takeaway, and then we'll have I suppose Mr. Blackhouse and to come up and give the airspace users' perspective on swim. Finally, we end off the day with my DG's closing remarks. So that will take us to the end of the program. So that's housekeeping and agenda done. Now, I'll give a quick summary for the a quick summary on swim and its concepts, the operational concepts, as well as our demonstration goals and objectives. This was presented in Bangkok, and for this quick recap is actually for the people who missed it. So those of you who were there, please bear with me. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. So why did we embark on this journey? In our discussions at the various forums, we discovered that we are engaging at varying different levels of understanding and perception of what swim actually is. When we first started, we had very little idea what swim could actually do for us. So our main objectives really were to try and figure out what swim principles were, right? And what kind of operation, to discover the operational benefits that swim could bring for us. So concepts could bring for operational concepts like our multinodal ATFM. We also wanted to use this opportunity to experiment with an implementation model that might be suitable for APAC. There are 2 models already existing in the world, the one that is implemented in the US and the one in Europe. I'm sure in the intervening time, there were other models that have already been implemented. However, we kind of got stuck when we look at both models and tried to decide which one was suitable for us. So we had to come up with one that fit both our technical and political and environmental landscape, right? So in this demonstration, you will see a lot of collaboration across different participating states and organizations, establishing a system-to-system information sharing, validating the information exchange mechanism, supporting different operational concepts. therefore showing us the operational value of SWIM. This demonstration will actually show the information exchange across multiple states based on common information standards consistent with SWIM. We'll be using standard SWIM formats like FIXIM, EXIM, and IWIXIM. I'll talk a little bit more about these exchange standards later on. We will also be using something called the Globally Unique Flight Identifier, or GUFI service, in this demonstration. So why do we need to use a GUFI? Because we need to uniquely identify a flight. Now some of you might say, you have the ICAO 24-bit. No, but that identifies the airframe. You can have the same airframe, come to Singapore, turn around and go back, right? But they're different flight numbers. They're considered different flights. So we need to identify the flight itself, meaning date, time, flight number, airframe, so on and so forth. So ICAO came up with this concept of a GUFI. And we've implemented a GUFI service. It's a long, scary string of unintelligible digits and characters. But it helps us to, well, helps the systems identify the flight. And finally, we will be demonstrating the FFI scenario, of which I will speak more a little bit later on. So, what is a key SWIM concept? Well, I think the main concept to get here is that SWIM enables loose coupling between the information producers and the information consumers. So what this means is that the information consumer has no idea and really doesn't care where and how the information is derived. All it wants and all it needs is that the information is produced in the standard format and routed in a way that is intelligible for their system and of a sufficient service level and of a sufficient quality for the consumer's needs, right? And that's it. That really is it. SWIM is based on the service-oriented architecture over an IP infrastructure. And when I say IP, I don't mean intellectual property, I mean internet protocol. Right? And because it's done this way, service-oriented over IP architecture, it reduces our point-to-point connections, and it's able to then support ground-to-ground interfaces and in future air-to-ground information exchanges. Then the use of a common global data exchange model is actually essential, because in order to have interoperability, you need to have a common way to talk. And these three, FIXIM, EXIM, IWIXIM, are the ones that ICAO decided carries the minimum amount of information, or rather, it's that information set that will allow us as the ATM community to exchange information that is relevant to us. Of course, such an environment cannot exist without governance rules to ensure that right information reaches the right person at the right time. A little bit about ICAO's vision on SWIM. So if you look on the diagram here, which I shamelessly copied from Kun Amo, right? It is ICAO's ASBU dependency graph. So if you look at that, okay, hang on a minute. That portion there has all the SWIM blocks. And if you trace the dependencies, you'll see quite a lot of blocks are actually dependent on SWIM. So, according to our GAM, SWIM is an integral part of the ASBU block upgrades and is covered in quite a number of ASBU modules. If you really want to have a detailed examination of this diagram, Amo kindly provided that link below. You can go there and then slowly take your time and trace all the modules if you like. And the manual on ATM, document 9882, the ATM requirement states that information management and services is critical to our ATM systems envisioned in the GATMOC. So ATM system shall implement SWIM. And from this diagram below, which I copied of Diana, it shows that SWIM supports both ATFM and FFIs, and thus allowing for TBO to eventually grow out of it. So in short, no SWIM, no ATFM, no ATFM, no FFIs, no FFIs, no TBO. So I'm sure you must be sick of this diagram by now. You see it everywhere at every presentation that talks about SWIM. I won't delve into it too much. It's been said before. So specifically for this particular scenario, we are using AIXM 5.1, FIXM 4.1, and iWIG-SIM 1.0. Now, through our many working and development meetings, we learned several things. One of which is that FIXM 4.1 does not support ATFM. The data fields that we need have disappeared from version 3. So previously, when we were running other demonstrations, we were using FIXIM version 3. And in there, all the data fields that we need exist. They were there. But when we came to this version, it's missing. So what we had to do was we had to create an Asia Pacific extension. And I'm happy to announce that just last week at APAN PERC, this particular extension has been adopted by our PERC. The other lesson that we learned is that we couldn't fit the ATFM daily plan, which is crucial for our ATFM operations, into any of these models. Oops, sorry. Into any of these models. We tried to fit it in AIXM, didn't work. Try to fit it in FIXM, not possible either. So we had to find a way to transmit this ATFM daily plan in our scenarios. And what we came up with was basically a web service, which is allowed under SWIM, that moves PDF files across such that we could receive the ATFM daily plan from our partners and participants. So I'm going to just take a break here from talking. I'm sure you're bored with me talking, and I'm going to show you a video which will probably give you a better explanation about SWIM than I could.
Current forecasts predict exponential growth in air travel, with passenger demand expected to double over the next 20 years. Therefore, an exchange of air traffic management information amongst stakeholders will be more important than ever. Such exchanges will ensure that operations function in the safest and most efficient way possible. Despite technological advancements in the era of modern aviation, there's still a heavy reliance on an outdated air traffic messaging system that was first developed by ICAO over 50 years ago. Given the non-scalable and restrictive nature of the current messaging system, there was a critical need for new thinking and methodologies that complemented the increasing levels of automation and technology in aviation today. In this regard, the Automatic Message Handling System, AMHS, was conceived. AMHS, however, was also found to have certain limitations that led ICAO to consider the next generation system. This led ICAO to develop a new system-wide information management SWIM concept, which will consist of standards, infrastructure and governance rules that will support the increasing need for open and timely data exchange and is intended to replace the existing data exchange infrastructure. The SWIM concept is envisioned to overcome current limitations in today's operational environment. By facilitating the exchange of ATM information between known parties, SWIM will complement human-to-human exchange with machine-to-machine communication, while improving data distribution and accessibility via interoperable services. SWIM-enabled applications will ingest or provide data to information services that will enable users such as air traffic personnel and airspace users to interact. SWIM will enable the sharing of information services for both inter- and intra-ATM domains to perform the required information exchanges. Information exchange models are used to define the syntax and semantics of the information service payloads. Technical infrastructure will provide the infrastructure services such as interface management, security services, and enterprise service management. Global connectivity will be accomplished by interconnecting the different stakeholder network infrastructures. An overview of each SWIM information service will indicate what services are provided, their behavior, the performance levels, the logical structure of the service message, how to access the services. The mechanism by which a consumer will discover the available information services publicized by a provider is called a registry. A registry can be compared to a Yellow Pages directory. So, in practical terms, a consumer will identify an information need. The consumer will access a registry to check if there is an information service that matches the need. The registry will provide a service overview, including the minimum requirements to access the service, as well as the necessary contact information that will allow the consumer to directly reach the provider if the consumer finds the information service it was looking for. Once the requirements are met and an agreement is reached, the provider will grant the consumer access to the information service. The consumer application can start accessing the service. There will likely be multiple SWIM registries established within the different regions. For example, at present, both the FAA and Eurocontrol have set up registries that allow them to advertise the services available in their particular region. In addition, stakeholders will be connected via a trusted private-public IP network. Given SWIM's dependence on IP technology, there's a growing need to protect against the potential of cyber threats to the system. ICAO acknowledges these concerns regarding cybersecurity and has established groups to begin developing requirements or protocols that should be applied. Cybersecurity will be critical to the implementation of a globally connected infrastructure. Ground-to-ground versus air-to-ground SWIM. Ground-to-ground SWIM will replace current ATS messaging for AIM, flight plan and MET data, as well as support new information exchanges. For example, SWIM will enable enhanced messaging related to air traffic flow management operations between ANSPs, airports and operators. Air-to-ground SWIM. SWIM was initially designed to support the ground-to-ground exchange of information, but the mechanisms for sharing data may also provide the ability to share information directly with the aircraft. Air-to-ground SWIM will be held as an additional layer on top of cockpit ground broadband connectivity. In this regard, onboard aircrews will be able to exchange information like MET charts, NOTAMs, trajectory, and other information via the SWIM network. This will enable up-to-date MET and aeronautical information sharing between the Flight Operations Center and the pilot, and will provide enhanced access to airspace constraint and flow restrictions information. Operators may need to establish a direct service contract with a SWIM service provider. In the initial stage, air-ground SWIM connectivity will utilize the existing electronic flight bag with a broadband connection between the cockpit and the ground. Until an interconnection of registries is available, airlines will need to research the service providers within each of the registries relevant to their area of operations and connect to those which advertise the information services they need. Operators may need to update their information systems to handle IWXXM, AIXM, FIXM data and develop the interconnectivity between internal systems for an efficient use of the SWIM information. This update can include both ground and onboard systems. IP-based connectivity is being used by some airlines, thus bringing SWIM connectivity to them may have a relatively low impact. However, as airlines desire to expand their capability by using additional services available through SWIM registries, there can be larger impacts and upgrade requirements to existing airline systems. Unfortunately, this new capability will not be implemented by all providers at the same time. There will be a cost associated with this new concept, which will probably result in an unorganized SWIM implementation between ICAO states and regions. Due to this possibility, we expect that the value and benefits to an operator conducting flights across countries and regions will initially be impacted. ICAO's end goal is for all ATM operational information to be exchanged over SWIM. For more information on SWIM, visit www.iata.org.
All right, so that was the video from IATA. We're going to break the presentation here for now, and I want a photo session in here in the auditorium. So we have a lot of space down here, so if I could get all the people upstairs, right, to come down, don't worry, you come down, you take the photo, then after that we're going for tea breaks. Right? So please make your way down. Mr. Kwa, Pak Ross, if you could come down to the front. Vincent and Sean, where's Sean? Please to the...
We've done this combination before, so people try to fill in the center rows for now, and then if any people who could not fit into the center row, we could stand on the side rows.
No, Pak Ross, so can I get everyone to stand up and squeeze? Right, we were trying to fit everyone down in this center block as much as possible. Don't look at him. Wait, is everyone down from upstairs? Not yet, not yet. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will break for tea break now for half an hour. It's now 10 o'clock. Let's be back here around 10:30. Thank you.